Thank you so much for joining us this morning. For those of us who don't know, we are the Jesuits for Climate Justice Faith in Action at COP30 delegation. My name is Daniela Alba. I am the Advocacy Coordinator for the Social Justice and Ecology Secretariat of the Society of Jesus. And we are here on behalf of the Society of Jesus, working with communities throughout the world to issue a clear moral and scientific call to action to COP30 delegates and governments. We already know the current global situation. The world is suffering, and countries all around the world are experiencing increasingly severe impacts disproportionately affecting vulnerable communities in the global majority. This COP30 was supposed to be the COP of the people, the COP of truth, the COP of implementation. And there needs to be a critical turning point in the effort for increasing this ambition, making it dynamic in terms of finance and delivering to the ones most in need for the scenario they have not created or contributed to. As the Society of Jesus, we are making our best effort to help on the grounds and advocate at this high level, so that the cry of the earth and the cry of the vulnerable are remembered, as remembered at Pope Francis, can be heard. I'm going to give the floor now to Father Roberto Jaramillo. He is the Secretary of the Secretariat of Social Justice and Ecology of the Jesuits worldwide. Over to you.
Thank you, Daniela. Good morning, everyone. Jesuits have always been present in the history of COPs, representing nations, institutions, and projects in which they work throughout the world. What is new in this occasion is the coordination of efforts around 4 common causes: the cancellation of the external debt of poor countries, the strengthening and operationalization of the Lost and Damaged Fund, the promotion of a just energy transition, and supporting sustainable food systems based on food sovereignty and agroecology. The process started a month after COP29 in Baku, and the journey was as significant as the presence here in Belém. We believe it will also be crucial to follow up on the agreements and the post-COP30 process. We have long referred to this entire process of participation before, during, and after Belém as the Jesuits for Climate Justice campaign. In Belém, 29 women and men from 14 countries participated in both the blue and green zones, as well as in the simultaneous COPs of social movements, indigenous, students, peasants, unions, and others. In some campaigns activities, we have formed strategic alliances with hundreds of religious communities worldwide, and also with the schools, universities, social centers, etc. The statement of the Religious Life for Climate Justice campaign, Hope into Action, signed by the 2 presidents of the Union of the General Religious Superiors, has more than 4,600 signatures, individual signatures, and more than 750 institutional endorsements, out of which at least 400 are Catholic religious communities representing thousands of religious men and women. The educational campaign among primary and secondary school students was very successful, and we have approximately 99,000 drawings and letters from students worldwide expressing their demands about caring for the earth. Today, at the end of the COP30, we reaffirm our decision to continue our journey and work hard to defend and protect the shared home. We aim to do this in partnership with many other institutions and individuals from whom we can learn and with whom we can collaborate, both without and outside the Catholic Church, striving to safeguard the blue planet as a divine gift. In his document, Laudato Deum, Pope Francis reminded us that conferences like this are vital spaces where the international community must collaborate and protect those most affected by our collective failures. He notes that often internationally negotiations cannot make significant progress due to the positions taken by countries which place their national interest above the global common good. Therefore, we make a respectful and fraternal yet firm appeal to the delegates and negotiators to make the necessary decisions guided by the highest moral and ethical standards, dignity, freedom, and equity for all human beings, so that the outcome of this COP30 is not a minimal consensus driven by the economic or financial interests of powerful groups, but rather a roadmap to move forward together, listening and hearing the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Roberto Jaramillo. I am now going to pass over to Cristobal Emilfort, who is a Chilean Jesuit working at the intersection of science and international climate policy. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Daniela. So it has often been understood that science and faith follow divergent paths. However, climate change driven by anthropogenic forces is a clear evidence that this is not the case. Time and again, science tirelessly warns us that the window of opportunity is closing and that the time to make truly ambitious decisions to reduce greenhouse gas levels in a significant way to avoid catastrophic outcomes is really, really urgent. As the Society of Jesus, we want to say that we must listen to science and take more ambitious actions. At the start of COP, during Earth Information Day, the WMO reported that 2025 is on track to become the second or third hottest year on record. We bear witness that the possibility of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels is receding. But we can't give up. This situation cannot weaken our efforts. We need to secure that if this overshoot does happen, it is as brief as possible and as close as possible to 1.5 degrees target of the Paris Agreement. And we claim this because not only the biodiversity of our planet, in which we Christians clearly perceive the hand of God being seriously affected, but so are those who bear no responsibility for the current state of the climate system, the poorest and most vulnerable communities on this planet. We, as Jesuits, just cannot keep silent. Our Christian faith calls us to immediate action. Science and faith that strive for justice work hand in hand. As a socio-environmental anthropologist working in science and technology studies, I have seen personally the unwavering work of scientists to communicate their findings and transparently and timely as possible. Likewise, I have witnessed the growing difficulties faced by frontline communities in adapting to this new climate regime without the financial resources they justly deserve. Both communities on the ground and sciences are pleading for attention. We, as Jesuits, and our apostolic works, which bring together thousands of people around the world, will continue to be oriented by the best available science so that it may guide our actions and protecting the earth, our common home, and complement our steps as we walk together with those who are suffering most due to actions currently too slow for what is urgently needed. We are here to ask you, dear delegates, for faster action, higher ambition, and really true commitment to stop the suffering of the earth and the suffering of the poor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cristobal. I'm now going to pass the word to Colm Fahy. He is the Ecology Advocacy Officer at the Jesuit European Social Center in Brussels. Over to you.
Thank you, Daniela. I've been closely following the negotiations on the Just Transition Work Programme here at COP30, and I believe it is a vital ray of hope at this conference. The JTWP was established at COP27, and it has delivered useful dialogue and information sharing, but now it can go further. COP30 is the moment to convert this dialogue into a concrete mechanism, as clearly proposed by the G77 and China Group. Just transition is a topic exceptionally close to our hearts. The Justice and Mining Network, a coalition of Jesuit social centres working at the forefront of the energy transition, seeks to bring a voice to the most vulnerable communities, those in parts of the world where mineral materials for this transition are being extracted. We were privileged to have partners represented here at COP from Lubumbashi in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, an area where over 70% of the world's cobalt is mined, yet located in one of the poorest countries in the world. We speak of the artisanal miners there, who, in the face of terrible working conditions, risk their lives to extract materials in the name of transition. This is one of the many examples where a dedicated just transition mechanism would be welcomed. The proposed mechanism would establish a more permanent, predictable structure capable of delivering non-debt creating financial support. The current GTWP, in its fragmented structure, simply does not guarantee this essential support. Right now, just transition efforts are scattered across various agencies and ministries. No one is tracking progress globally. The mechanism would fix this by serving as a central coordination hub for all efforts, ensuring funding is deployed effectively and transparently. The core of the current debate pits the global north against the global south. The EU and the UK and other developed countries are currently resisting the transformation of the programme and the establishment of this new mechanism. Yet, the coalition of countries supporting this mechanism accounts for almost 80% of the world's population, including the poorest nations most vulnerable to the unintended consequences of transition. Our call is a moral one, appealing to the basic ethical principles of true human society. So we say directly to those resisting nations, consider the indigenous peoples whose lands contain or are adjacent to 50% of the critical raw materials in the world. Consider the 45 million artisanal miners worldwide who possessed almost no formal workers' rights, but whose labour is required now more than ever for this transition to succeed. We implore you to enable this mechanism, use this opportunity to give a preferential option for the poor, to demonstrate compassion and solidarity with our friends in the global south, and to truly unlock an energy transition that not only contributes to the 1.5 goal, but also gives an opportunity for justice and dignity to the world's most vulnerable.
Thank you so much, Colum. We are now going to hear from Patricia Taharindre, who's the current programs coordinator for Centrarup in Madagascar. Over to you.
Thank you, Daniela. Well, I want to start with something obvious that is impossible to ignore here at COP30. Vulnerable countries do not lack courage or solutions, they lack space to breathe. And that space is suffocated by debt and by the lack of access to climate finance. For us, climate finance is not technical or abstract. It's about survival and human dignity. Laudato Si reminds us that we live in a common home, yet today that home is burning for some, while others remain protected on the upper floors. Too many countries in the global south still use scarce resources to pay all debts instead of protecting their people. We cannot speak of ambition while those who did not create this crisis are still paying interest on it. The only fair path is debt cancellation, or will debt for climate swaps. And please, let's stop saying it's complicated. What is complicated is families displaced by floods. What is complicated is farmers losing 3 seasons in a row. What is complicated is schools destroyed, roads cut off, life shattered. The rest is political choice. Before coming to Belém, we listened to the voices of communities across the Jesuit network in Madagascar. Their message was clear. We cannot afford another COP of promises without action. And at this COP30, we must be honest about where we stand. Yes, the Loss and Damage Fund has opened its calls for proposals, a welcome step. But the resources available today are hundreds of times smaller than the real needs of vulnerable countries. Adaptation was recognized again as a priority here in Belém, but the gap remains extremely big. The adaptation fund is still far from the scale required, and access continues to be slow and complicated for those who need it most. The mutual decision, the heart of this COP's finance package, remains bracketed on essential commitments: tripling adaptation finance, reducing the cost of capital, strengthening access for vulnerable countries, and establishing the Belém facility. We cannot leave the Amazon with unfinished work, not again. Okay, let me end with people, not mechanisms. Because behind every budget line, there are lives. Vulnerable countries are not asking for charity, but for justice, equity, and common but differentiated responsibilities, including historical responsibility. Those who benefited most from past emissions have a greater duty to support those who now face their consequences. And communities tell us immense strength. We don't want to disappear, we want to live. Living requires real financing, not promises. Financing that arrives on time, reaches the right people, comes as grants, and frees countries from suffocating debt. The world doesn't need more speeches, the world needs courage, here, now, in Belém. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause to our speakers, please. In the interest of time, we want to go ahead and open up the floor for anyone here who has questions. So if anyone would like, the mic is here.
Yeah, thank you for this very inspiring panel. I have a question for Mr. Corrêa, if you don't mind. I was told that this morning the presidency made a statement about the just transition very early at 3 a.m. So could you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yes, thank you for your question, sir. You're absolutely right. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, there was the presidency's proposed informal text on this, informal notes, I'm sorry. And we welcome this. We welcome this because it introduces a new decision to develop a just transition mechanism. And despite it delaying a review of the just transition mechanism to 2026, I think that is a good informal note so far. The question now is, over the next day, is for that not to be watered down. There was a lot of effort to get mechanism mentioned into that text. So resisting countries need to not water this down. So it's a ray of hope, but here's hoping. That's it. Thank you.
Daniela, this is a question to Father Roberto and others, if you want to answer. I'm very happy about the press conference here where the Jesuits' stand has been clearly expressed. The 4 calls you have been making are very good, very ambitious calls, and I hear from the press conference that you have been taking concerted efforts in terms of advocacy work to promote these 4 calls around the world, because Jesuits have been working around the world. So being happy about it. My question right now here is this. These 4 calls are vital for the COP processes. Having gone through the COP processes in COP30, how are you planning to take forward these 4 calls in terms of advocacy towards policy level interventions and concrete solutions? Over to Roberto and others.
Thank you for the questions. For the question, Kennedy. This is the first time we participate in such an event as an articulated body of the Society of Jesus. But we learn we need to evaluate our participation and move forward. I have 3 things that are clear in my mind to go ahead. The first one is the need to collaborate, to establish more and more alliances with people who are already on the field and trying to make it the bridge in between the people that suffer the most the consequences of climate change and the policymakers or the people who are studying the problem. So collaborate with others and be open to that. The second thing I am clear is that we need to stress the educational path that the Holy See, the Pope Leo, is inviting us to walk. Education at all levels, in educational institutions, but education of adults, education in social centers, in parishes, everywhere where we are working, and in alliance with other people. It's a kind of conversion, what we need, if you like to put it in religious terms, of metanoia, or change of habits, so we can really protect the planet. And the third element that we will continue stressing is the advocacy at the level of the highest level possible, with the alliance with other partners, to demand and to demand to the decision makers to live up to the needs of the world, to the highest moral and ethical standards, thinking in humanity, not to develop processes just driven by financial or economic reasons. I don't know if my colleagues would like to, Daniela.
Thank you, Father Roberto. If I may just add, the Society of Jesus is known around the world for its work in the educational sector. There's probably not one person that hasn't had some type of encounter with a social center, a parish, a work of the society. And part of this work is accompanying the field, the people. It is a service, it is an accompaniment. And so we brought here with us, and I know you can zoom in the back, the voices of the children. We often forget that they are witnesses, not only witnesses, they are the future. They are inheriting this home that is on fire currently. It is our duty to, in this compromising of walking together, to elevate those voices. And so we made it the central point of our campaign to uplift these voices, not only through their drawings, which you can see are so eloquent, they see and they feel everything. And in their innocence and without any shyness, they've also told us the truth and called us to action. And it is the moral imperative, not only of the Society of Jesus, not only of the Holy See, but of every single person in decision-making spaces, to be able to listen to these voices, not only in a consultative process, but in an integration, because they are the ones who will inherit the future and this home. And we have a duty to them. So I really invite you to engage. You can go to echojesuit.com. We also have the Faith and Ecology podcast and educational resources so that they can be implemented in 4 languages, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and English around the world. We invite you to collaborate us. We don't do anything on our own. We do everything together. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. I think we don't have too much time for another question. We need to leave the room for the next group. I would like to thank you for the presence here. Let us continue making our best effort to build a more just, free, and fraternal society around the world. Thank you very much.